The Galactic Empire arrived in the Sol system draped in banners of peace. Their ships, monolithic and gleaming, cast long shadows over Earth as they entered orbit. It was humanity's first formal diplomatic encounter with the most powerful force in the galaxy, a civilization spanning thousands of systems and countless species. Humanity approached the meeting cautiously but with hope. Decades of exploration and technological advancement had led to this moment. The Federation of Earth, formed after centuries of internal strife, now stood united as a force capable of reaching the stars. The Empire's arrival was seen as an opportunity, an invitation to join the galactic community. Ambassador Elise Varen was humanity's chosen envoy. She was more than a diplomat. She was a symbol. Her career had been built on forging peace in the most volatile regions of Earth and its colonies. Her presence alone was a declaration that humanity was ready to stand as equals among the stars. The invitation to board the Empire's flagship, the Virtus, had come unexpectedly. The Empire promised a closed negotiation to discuss the terms of humanity's entry into the galactic fold. Elise accepted without hesitation. She knew the risks but believed the rewards far outweighed them. As the shuttle carrying Elise and her team docked with the Virtus, tension rippled through Earth's command centers. The Empire's emissaries had said little since their arrival, and their colossal warships, though silent, were a constant reminder of their overwhelming power. The final transmission from Elise was brief, a confirmation that negotiations were underway. Then silence. An hour later, the Virtus exploded. The flash of light was visible from Earth's surface. Sensor arrays picked up the shockwave before communications went completely dark. For minutes, no one could speak. The great vessel, once a symbol of hope, had become a debris field. Elise Varen was gone. Panic erupted across the Federation. Earth's defense network scrambled to decipher what had happened. Had there been an accident? Sabotage? But as reports poured in, the truth became clear. This was no accident. High-resolution scans revealed energy signatures consistent with weapons fire. Debris from human vessels showed signs of concentrated plasma burns, evidence of an ambush. Elise's body, recovered by rescue drones, bore unmistakable signs of execution. A clean energy bolt through her chest. The Galactic Empire issued a statement almost immediately. Tragic accident, they said. Unforeseen technical failure. They denied any hostile intent. They blamed human engineers for mishandling docking protocols. Yet, no evidence supported their claims. And when Earth demanded answers, the Empire offered none. Instead, they withdrew their ships from Sol's orbit, leaving only silence behind. President Adrian Hale stood before the Federation's High Council the next day, his face pale but resolute. The room was filled with representatives from Earth and its colonies, scientists, generals, and politicians. The air was heavy with anger and grief. Adrian's voice, steady despite the weight of the moment, broke the silence. "We sent a message of peace," he began. "We offered our trust. In return, they sent fire and death." A murmur of agreement rippled through the chamber. Images of the destroyed Virtus played on the screens behind him, reinforcing the horror of what had been lost. Some will say we should wait for answers, that we should pursue dialogue. But I say this. How do you negotiate with those who see us as nothing more than insects? How do you reason with those who believe their might gives them the right to kill without consequence? His words hung in the air. The anger simmering beneath the surface of the room began to boil. They believe we are weak. They believe we will cower before their fleets. But they are wrong. Adrian's voice rose, thunderous now. Today, we mourn the dead. But tomorrow, we fight for the living, for our survival, for our future. He turned to face the council directly. I call for a declaration of war against the Galactic Empire. The chamber erupted in debate. Some argued for restraint, fearing the might of the Empire's fleets. Others demanded immediate retaliation, unwilling to let the murder of Elise Varen go unanswered. But as the hours passed, Unity emerged from chaos. The vote was cast. Unanimous. Humanity was at war. Within days, the Federation transformed. Factories shifted production to weapons and warships. Distant colonies sent volunteers by the thousands. Engineers toiled to upgrade humanity's fleet, retrofitting civilian vessels with armor and weapons. The Federation's military leaders convened aboard Resolute, Earth's most advanced battleship. Admiral Elias Gray, a veteran of countless campaigns on Earth and Mars, was tasked with leading the war effort. His grizzled demeanor and unyielding resolve made him the ideal choice. Gray wasted no time. "Our first move," he said, addressing his officers, "is to strike before they can mobilize. Hit them where it hurts." The target was Crixus Prime, a key supply hub on the Empire's frontier. Intelligence reports indicated it was lightly defended, its garrison unprepared for a full-scale assault. If taken, it would disrupt the Empire's logistics and give humanity time to build its forces. The plan was bold, but boldness was what the moment demanded. 2 weeks later, humanity's fleet gathered near the edge of the Sol system. The sight was both awe-inspiring and sobering. Hundreds of ships, some designed for war, others hastily refitted freighters, formed ranks. It was a patchwork force, untested against the might of the Empire. On the bridge of the Resolute, Elias Gray stood in silence, staring out at the fleet. He knew the odds. The Empire's technology was centuries ahead of humanity's. Their ships were faster, stronger, and armed with weapons that defied understanding. But Elias also knew one thing the Empire didn't. Humanity would not break. He turned to his crew. "Send the signal," he ordered. "We jump in 5. The countdown began. Engines hummed to life. Across the fleet, crews braced themselves. 4. Weapon systems came online. Shields activated. 3. Elias gripped the rail, his knuckles white. 2. This was it. The moment humanity stopped running. 1. The fleet jumped, and the war for survival began. The human fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Crixus Prime system, a cascade of rippling light and distortion announcing their arrival. Admiral Elias Gray stood on the bridge of the Resolute, his sharp eyes fixed on the massive space station orbiting the planet below. "Crixus Prime," Gray muttered. "Let's see what secrets you hold." The Imperial Station was a hulking structure, bristling with weapons and flanked by smaller defense platforms. The energy signatures of patrolling ships dotted the area, corvettes, destroyers, and one battleship, though no signs of reinforcements yet. "Enemy sensors should have picked us up by now," Commander Ava Rin said, scanning her console. "No immediate response." "They think we're small," Gray said, a grim smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. "A rebellion to be crushed. Let's remind them what humans are capable of." He raised his voice. "All ships, engage." The order was relayed across the fleet. Engines flared and warships surged toward the station, forming into attack formations. Missiles streaked out in waves, accompanied by bursts of plasma fire and railgun slugs. The Empire's defenders scrambled to respond. Fighters poured from hangars like a swarm of hornets, weaving between incoming fire. Plasma turrets lit up, tracing glowing paths through the void. The battle had begun. Incoming fire. The Resolute shuddered as enemy plasma blasts struck its shields. Sparks flew from overloaded circuits, and alarms blared across the bridge. "Shields holding at 60%, shouted the tactical officer. "Maintain fire," Gray barked. "Target those gun emplacements. We need to clear a path for the boarding teams." The fleet pressed forward. Fighters engaged in deadly dogfights, spiraling through debris and explosions. Destroyers exchanged broadsides, trading fire until their hulls split apart. Amidst the chaos, human dropships streaked toward the station, weaving through the crossfire. On board one of those dropships, Commander Kara Rin gripped her harness. Her team of Marines sat strapped in beside her, their weapons primed. "This is what we trained for," Kara said, her voice steady. "Remember, fast and brutal. Take out the command center, cut their defenses, and let the admiral finish the job. The dropship rocked as flak exploded nearby. The pilot's voice crackled through the comms. Brace for impact. The ship hit the docking bay hard, its hull screeching as it slid to a stop. The doors hissed open and Kara's team poured out, rifles raised. The hangar was chaos. Imperial soldiers scrambled to mount a defense, but the humans moved too quickly. Pulse rifles barked, cutting down enemies as they advanced. Kara ducked behind cover, firing short, controlled bursts. "Clear the bay," she ordered. "Secure the exits." The Marines fanned out, pushing deeper into the station. Explosions shook the walls as the battle outside raged on, but Kara focused on the mission. They reached the command center minutes later, breaching the doors with explosive charges. Inside, Imperial officers scrambled to defend their consoles, but they were no match for the Marines' precision. Kara stepped over the bodies and accessed the controls. "Shutting down defensive grids," she reported. "Stations exposed." "Good work," came Gray's voice over the comms. "Stand by for extraction." Meanwhile, the Resolute pressed the attack. With the station's defenses disabled, the fleet focused fire on the remaining Imperial warships. One by one, the enemy vessels fell, their hulks breaking apart in fiery explosions. But the Empire didn't go down without a fight. The battleship, Haldreth, remained operational, its massive cannons tearing through human ships. "Target the Haldreth's engines," Gray ordered. "Disable her." Missiles and torpedoes streaked toward the Imperial warship, detonating along its hull. The massive vessel shuddered, its engines flickering as power systems overloaded. "She's adrift, sir," Ava reported. "Finish her." The final salvo struck true. The Haldreth erupted in a blinding explosion, its fragments scattering into the void. Cheers erupted across the fleet, but Gray remained grim. "Status: We've lost 34 ships," Ava said quietly. "Casualties estimated at 10,000. Gray exhaled slowly. "And Crixus?" "Secured," she confirmed. The first victory of the war had come at a high cost, but it was a victory nonetheless. The Empire's supply lines were severed, and humanity had proven it could stand toe-to-toe with its oppressors. Aftermath: Crixus Prime's control room was a mess of bodies and broken equipment when Gray finally arrived. Kara stood at the main console, her armor scorched but intact. "You did good," Gray said, nodding. Kara saluted. "Couldn't have done it without the fleet." Together, they stared at the view screen, showing the remnants of the battle. Wreckage drifted silently, illuminated by the glow of the burning station. "This is just the beginning," Kara said. Gray nodded. "They'll be coming. And next time, they'll be ready for us." As the fleet began repairs and recovered the wounded, scouts reported strange energy readings from the far side of the system. The Empire was retreating. They were regrouping. Gray turned back to the bridge. "Signal the fleet. Prepare for counterattack." The war had only just begun. The Empire's response was swift and brutal. Within days of humanity's victory at Crixus Prime, their fleets began to mobilize. Across the galaxy, Imperial warships poured into staging areas, rallying under banners of vengeance. The loss of the Crixus supply hub was an insult they could not tolerate. Admiral Elias Gray sat in the dimly lit war room aboard the Resolute, reviewing intelligence reports streaming in from scouts stationed along the frontier. Holographic projections of enemy fleets flickered above the table, massive armadas dwarfing humanity's scattered forces. "They're coming," Gray said grimly. Ava Wren, his second-in-command, studied the projections. "Multiple fleets converging on our position. If they hit Crixus now, we won't hold." "We won't let them," Gray replied, leaning over the table. "We draw them out, bleed them, make every step they take cost them dearly." His gaze shifted to Kara Wren, Ava's sister and commander of the ground forces. She stood with arms crossed, her battle-worn armor a reminder of the price already paid. "What about the civilians?" Kara asked. We evacuated Crixus Prime's workforce, but there are still thousands stranded on nearby colonies. They won't survive an invasion. Gray exhaled slowly. We can't protect everyone, Kara. Not yet. She bristled but said nothing. The war had turned them all into pragmatists. Ava broke the silence. We have a chance to even the odds if we move fast. Our tech teams cracked the Empire's data cores. We know their reinforcements are assembling at Delta Serpentis. If we hit their rally point, we cripple their advance. Gray studied the projections. It was risky, a long-range strike deep into enemy territory. But playing it safe wasn't an option. Make preparations, he ordered. We strike at Delta Serpentis. The battle for Delta Serpentis. The human fleet jumped into the Delta Serpentis system with weapons hot. The moment they emerged, alarms blared across the Empire's staging grounds. Rows of Imperial warships, still refueling and repairing, scrambled to meet the attack. Target their fuel depots, Gray shouted. Cut off their supply lines. Human bombers screamed toward the stations orbiting the gas giant below. Explosions bloomed as missiles struck storage tanks, sending fireballs into space. Imperial turrets responded with waves of plasma fire, cutting down several bombers before they could escape. On the ground, Kara led an assault against the Empire's command outpost. Her Marines hit fast and hard, dropping from low-orbit carriers directly into the heart of the facility. Push forward, Kara barked, firing her rifle as enemy soldiers poured into the corridors. Grenades detonated, and energy bolts ricocheted off the walls. The battle was chaos, but Kara's team advanced with ruthless efficiency, clearing room after room until they reached the central command center. Set charges, she ordered, planting explosives along the walls. Outside, the space battle raged. Human destroyers maneuvered through the debris field, firing broadsides into the exposed flanks of Imperial cruisers. The Resolute unleashed its main cannons, carving through enemy formations. Enemy reinforcements inbound. Ava warned. Gray gritted his teeth. By Kara Moore time, inside the command center, the final charges were set. We're clear, Kara shouted. Her team retreated as the explosives detonated, reducing the outpost to rubble. Above them, the Imperial fleet began to falter. Cut off from Central Command, their formations broke apart. Fall back, Gray ordered, signaling the fleet to retreat before enemy reinforcements could close in. The humans jumped out of the system just as Imperial dreadnoughts arrived, too late to stop the destruction. The price of victory. The success at Delta Serpentis bought humanity time, but it came at a staggering cost. Of the 200 ships that entered the battle, only 128 returned. Casualties numbered in the tens of thousands. Supplies were dwindling, and repairs stretched resources thin. On the bridge of the Resolute, Gray stared at the damage reports. Hull breaches, reactor overloads, lost crew. Each line told a story of sacrifice. This isn't sustainable, Ava said quietly. Gray nodded. We hurt them, but it won't be enough. They'll keep coming until we can't fight back. Kara entered, her armor stained with soot and blood. Then we don't stop fighting, she said. Gray admired her resolve, but knew they were nearing their limit. The Empire's industrial capacity dwarfed humanity's. Even with advanced technology and clever tactics, Earth couldn't match their numbers. Ava interrupted their thoughts. Sir, we intercepted a transmission from the Empire. It's a declaration. The message played in the war room. The Empress's voice was cold and commanding. Humans of soul, your defiance has been noted. Your victories are meaningless against the might of the Galactic Empire. Surrender now, and your extinction may yet be merciful. The room fell silent. Kara broke it. Mercy? After what they did to Elise. After what they did to our people. She turned to Gray. We don't surrender. Ever. Gray met her eyes and nodded. Prepare the fleet. We'll make them regret underestimating us. Dark tidings. Despite their victories, whispers of doubt crept through the ranks. Reports from scouts spoke of new Imperial technologies, energy weapons capable of vaporizing ships in a single shot and prototype dreadnoughts larger than any human vessel. Gray knew the window was closing. Humanity needed a breakthrough, or the war would end in annihilation. Then came the discovery. Deep within the data cores recovered at Delta Serpentis, Earth scientists uncovered schematics for a superweapon called the Sundiver. If activated, it could ignite stars, turning them into deadly firestorms capable of consuming entire systems. And the Empire was building it. Gray stared at the hologram of the weapon, its design both elegant and terrifying. "This changes everything," he said. Ava looked up from the data. "If they finish it, they won't need fleets. They can burn our colonies from across the galaxy. Kara, clench your fists. Then we destroy it before they get the chance." Gray nodded. "Plot a course. We're ending this." As the fleet prepared for its most dangerous mission yet, Earth soldiers steeled themselves for the battles ahead. They had survived the Empire's counterattack and dealt crippling blows. But now, they faced a weapon unlike any they had encountered before. And in the depths of space, the Empress watched, her eyes cold with fury. "This is far from over," she whispered. The Resolute hung in the black void at the edge of the Nexus Abyss, the Empire's most heavily fortified sector. It was here, hidden in the gravitational shadow of a collapsed star, that the Empire's superweapon, the Sundiver, was being constructed. Admiral Elias Gray stood on the bridge, his eyes fixed on the holographic display of the enemy's defenses. Rings of orbital platforms, dreadnoughts, and minefields formed an impenetrable wall around the construction site. The Sundiver loomed at the center, half-built but already terrifying in its scale. "This isn't just a weapon," Commander Ava Wren said, breaking the silence. "It's a message. They don't just want to win. They want to burn us out of existence." Gray nodded grimly. "Then we stop them here, or we die trying." He turned to Kara Wren, now promoted to captain after her victories at Crixus and Delta Serpentis. Her battle-scarred armor bore the marks of every fight she had survived. "You and your Marines will lead the boarding teams," Gray said. "Get inside that thing and make sure it never fires." Kara gave a sharp nod. "We'll handle it." Gray's voice rose. "This is humanity's last chance. We break them here, or we lose everything. No retreat. No surrender." The fleet echoed his call, and the order was given. The assault begins. The human fleet surged forward, engines burning hot as they raced toward the enemy lines. Imperial defenses came alive, unleashing waves of plasma fire and missile barges. Explosions lit up the void as ships shattered under the assault. The Resolute led the charge, its massive cannons cutting a path through the chaos. Fighter squadrons weaved through the defenses, targeting weak points in the orbital platforms and clearing paths for the bombers. "Shields at 40%. Ava shouted, "Redirect power to forward batteries." Gray barked, "Hold the line." The human fleet pressed forward, closing the distance to the Sundiver. Smaller ships sacrificed themselves to cover the larger cruisers, their debris forming a deadly barrier that slowed the Empire's counterattack. Amid the battle, Kara's assault ships broke off and raced toward the Sundiver. Anti-air defenses locked onto them, filling space with fire. "Evasive maneuvers," Kara shouted. Her dropship rocked as debris and flak tore through its hull. Marines braced themselves as alarms blared. "Brace for impact." The dropship crashed into one of the Sundiver's docking bays, skidding to a halt in a shower of sparks. The doors hissed open and Kara led her team out, guns blazing. Inside the beast, the corridors of the Sundiver were a labyrinth of steel and fire. Imperial soldiers poured in from all sides, but Kara's Marines pushed forward with brutal efficiency. "Set charges at structural points." Kara ordered. "We bring this thing down from the inside." Explosions rattled the corridors as charges detonated, tearing through bulkheads and destabilizing the structure. But then the lights dimmed and a low hum filled the air. "What the hell is that?" one Marine asked. Kara's eyes widened. It's powering up. The Sundiver's core began to glow, energy building as it prepared to unleash its deadly payload. If it fired, the human fleet would be obliterated. "We're out of time," Kara shouted. Pushed to the core, her team fought their way through waves of defenders, reaching the central chamber. The core pulsed like a living thing, tendrils of energy arcing across its surface. Kara planted the last of her charges around the core. Detonators set. Fall back. As the Marines retreated, Imperial reinforcements closed in. Kara covered her team, firing until her rifle overheated. A plasma bolt struck her shoulder, but she gritted her teeth and kept moving. They reached the docking bay just as the charges detonated. The explosion tore through the core, triggering a chain reaction that engulfed the Sundiver in fire. The cost of victory. From the Resolute, Gray watched as the Sundiver erupted in a blinding light, its superstructure collapsing inward. Shockwaves rippled outward, destroying nearby Imperial ships. Cheers erupted across the fleet, but Gray's expression remained grim. "Status report?" he asked. Ava scanned the console. "The fleet's taken heavy losses. At least half our ships are gone. Kara's team made it out, but casualties are high." Gray exhaled slowly. They had won, but the cost was staggering. As the surviving Imperial forces began to retreat, Gray turned to his crew. "Signal all ships. Regroup and prepare for pursuit. This war isn't over yet." The Empire's retreat. The destruction of the Sundiver sent shockwaves through the Empire. News of their defeat spread quickly, shattering the illusion of invincibility. Uprisings erupted across Imperial territories as other species saw humanity's defiance and dared to resist. But the Empire wasn't finished. From the depths of their homeworld, the Empress addressed her people. Her image flickered across holographic displays, her voice cold and unwavering. "The humans believe they have won," she said. "They believe they can defy us. But they have only sealed their fate. We will rebuild. We will burn their worlds to ash." Her eyes glowed with rage. This war has only just begun. The road ahead. Back on the Resolute, Kara stood beside Gray as the fleet limped toward the Sol system. Her shoulder was bandaged, and exhaustion etched lines into her face, but her eyes still burned with determination. "We hurt them," she said. Gray nodded. "But they'll come back stronger. Then so will we," Kara replied. Ava joined them, her expression grim. "Scouts report massive fleet movements near Imperial core worlds. They're regrouping faster than we expected." Gray turned to the holographic map, where red markers spread across the galaxy like wildfire. "Prepare the fleet," he said. "We end this war on our terms." As the battered ships of humanity sailed through the void, their crews steeled themselves for the battles to come. The Empire had underestimated them once. They would not make that mistake again, and in the shadows of space, humanity prepared for the final strike. One that would either shatter the Empire or doom their species forever.